just like what happened with Julie Holburn a while ago in Orange County Family Court, where she had organized and got a bunch of people outside. They got outside, they had signs, it was organic, real people connected to her, connected to the case, connected to things going on in Orange County and corruption inside of the court. But then there were people from other states and other places, and they were jumping around, and they were bringing a lot of attention to themselves. One woman involved was from Newport Beach, someone else was from somewhere in the Midwest, and they were very vocal, and they were drawing attention to themselves in a way that was saying, like, we're in agreement. Me too, absolutely. But it was having the effect of taking attention away from the main person who had been affected directly by that court, who had organized it primarily. It was infiltrated, and that the purpose was to dilute it, to confuse things, to introduce chaos, and to grab control of the narrative, whatever it was. And so I think that's exactly what happened with Allie and Beverly and Shelley in Texas, in Houston, Texas. And then it was reported on one television news station. And they said, even on that, like, I didn't see it and think, well, at least there was a little bit of coverage. That's better than no coverage. I saw it as the absolute minimum that could be done. It was what was done to minimize the impact. So in other words, had no news covered it at all, then in a way that might have been more suspicious and might have brought more attention to it. But the fact that there was just one piece about, at best, a side issue or person featured, kind of put wrongly, and then just sort of like never to be revisited again, just a throwaway segment about like a random thing that happened, got reported on one channel, was a way to diminish the whole thing as much as possible. Like, I almost think it would have been better if nobody had covered it, because then you could say, look, nobody covered it. What's going on? Obviously, the media is ignoring this, but you can't really say that. It's like, well, Fox was there.
Well, right. That's kind of the reason they would do that sort of thing, if that was on purpose, would be to, like you said, dilute the message and then cause anybody who's just looking at it to get a benign, oh, that's a local organization, how great, click, and then move along.
Yeah, they're like, somebody's talking about human trafficking in children, where the proper context is Houston is a huge city. It's the most populous city in Texas. It's down near the border. It's off of the 10 freeway, which goes from coast to coast. And it's notorious as one of the trafficking hubs, also near the U.S.-Mexico border. So Houston, that's where she's talking about. It's in Harris County, the fourth largest county in the U.S. in terms of population. And a lot of the government stuff is at the county level, so it matters in that way as well. And you have Allie Carter, I think, at least to me, she's the most well-known advocate of her kind, where she's saying, look, I'm a victim. I was a victim my whole childhood. It started with CPS. It ends up with different government systems. It involves courts, law enforcement, public schools. She names names. And then also it includes politicians, celebrities. And she's in Southern California, so she's proximate to that in a way that most people aren't, even to the Caribbean and Epstein and the islands and all of that. So all of that. If she's telling the truth, which I think she is, and it doesn't even matter if I think it is. She's got a lot of documents that prove it, as well as her mom, both testifying, both willing to testify. It's a huge story. If she's telling the truth, it's a huge story. If she's not telling the truth, it's a huge story. If she doesn't recall it perfectly, it's a huge story. It's a huge story no matter how you look at it. It happened in Riverside County. The whole time that she's alive and being trafficked, and even into her adulthood, the person who's the sheriff right now of Riverside County was working with Riverside County sheriffs, and he's running for governor. The election's going on right now. This is a huge story. So when the media doesn't report it, the media becomes the story, basically.
Strategically not reporting it. Naturally, they would pick it up, but they're strategically not picking it up.
If you were trying to report the things that mattered, what people usually call the news, then that's a top story. It has to be in Houston and in Southern California, minimum. But also, if you're in the newspaper business, like back in the day when there were competing newspapers and sometimes they'd have a morning and an afternoon edition, this is the thing that they have kids on the street screaming about it. Hear all about it.
The Newsies. The whole thing was real.
This news. So for all of those kinds of reasons, the normal expectation would be for this to be talked about, reported on prominently. And that's true whether you believe her story or don't really know about it yet. Hey, there's this young woman talking about how when she was a girl, how when she was 3 months old, the first CPS report was filed in San Bernardino County, and then all of her years in Riverside County. We would talk about it. And also, what about investigative journalism? I mean, isn't this interesting? Wouldn't you want to find out more about it? And one person did, Beverly Gillen. And she was one of the 3 people hosting the event. So anyway, we could talk about it all week. I mean, we literally could. But as far as the media goes, I see that it's obviously infiltrated and the media is complicit. And then everything else is just conversation and details. Who got paid, whatever.
I agree with that. And that sits right in with the whole, like, when you think of marketing as mind control and they have to use some sort of SEO terminology or back-end technology in order to control the public narrative. Everybody's got a search engine now. So if anybody was looking up Allie Carter this weekend, how big is it, this, that, and the other, they have to control all of that. So they're either going to create news, create articles, create other things to talk about around that time frame that would be in a similar search pattern. The people that would be searched are going to be trending in a different way to pull attention differently. So, like, when you see something and you think, well, I don't know, is that true or not? Look at how much is put around pulling your attention away from it, because I think that's a big piece.
Yeah, and who benefits from that? So, I mean, as much as things have changed, so you don't have competing newspapers trying to put the, biggest stories out there. Say, read what we're saying about it, not what they're saying about it. And by the way, they're all talking about it because it's news. It's a big deal. Hey, I got the scoop. I actually talked to the victim's mom, Shelley, and here's what she said about the guy who's running for governor. I mean, you would expect to hear these things.
Yeah, why didn't they?
Yeah, because it's changed. So it's changed. But what hasn't changed is human nature and people. They still want money. They still are afraid of getting hurt. Most are still protecting people, children or others. And they're protecting their reputations, and they're trying to get to the next stepping stone, or they're trying to hook up with the girl or the guy, or, they're doing whatever. They want to go on vacation, or they want their own boat so they can have their own, stuff. So that hasn't changed.
Oh, yeah.
So then you go like, well, then what is motivating the media in Houston? Because they're not reporting the story. Same thing in Southern California. What's motivating the LA Times? They still care about money. I mean, it's owned by a UCLA professor who's a billionaire. I mean,
well, and that's where the question of control comes in.
Obviously cares about money. I mean, in addition to everything else, he might care about the pancreas also, and he might care about pharmaceuticals, and he might be super interested in chemistry, and he might be an amazing surgeon from China and South Africa. But, I know he cares about money. I know he's got billions of dollars. I know he's not reporting this story. I mean, that the newspaper he owns isn't. So it's not like people stopped caring about money. So where's the money in not telling Allie's story? Because it's a story.
Well, yeah. And that's a question, too. I mean, we don't necessarily know what happened behind the scenes. So let's take a, devil's advocate here. Would be an interesting thought, because I've seen other stories happen like this where the reporter puts it together. They maybe did get on the scene footage of Allie or talk about Allie or something, and they put it together, and the higher ups say, you got 1 minute, we got to cut all of this but this.
Well,
and maybe that happened, and why would that happen? And so, because she did mention how Houston is the biggest trafficking area. She did mention that they had a human trafficking, march and stuff. So it looked like it was coming from the right place. And so why did they strategically cut out the organizers, the big names, the names that would have gotten views, the stuff that could be validated and show more information? Why did they cut all of that out?
Right.
For a local survivor story, which is, you know, it was also an impactful story, but it wasn't what the weekend was. It was just an interesting narrative control. So you have to wonder, did they get the true story and they weren't allowed to publish it, but they were allowed to go with this? Because that's also big, because who's cutting the other stuff out? And I don't know that that happened, but I have seen that happen in other stories, and they publish that happening in these big stories like the Catholic priests and all that kind of stuff. The reporters will come, like in Spotlight, I think it was, they come to their editors, and the editors are like, cut. You know, so it would be interesting to find a reporter who would be willing to say, I tried. This is what happened.
You know, well, we have it. And we had it in the form of, it's actually ABC, which is owned by Disney. So it was a few years ago, but Amy Robach had the Epstein story, and she was caught on a hot mic explaining exactly what happened. So, and I have it here. You want me to share my screen?
Yeah, make sure the audio is clicked there. That's a great idea.
Okay, I'll do it. So, you know, we can wonder about it, and they won't tell unless they tell accidentally. So let me.
Yeah, exactly. Case in point. You know, they know what all the details are because they're journalists. It's just what they choose to put in the, you know, between the gray space.
Yeah. Okay. So the context is Amy Robach and her affair and a bunch of stuff. So, you know, imagine what they had on her to begin with. And then I always remember this reporter, Amy Robach, is the ABC reporter who had the Epstein victim's story and spiked it. I mean, I wrote this in 2022. She had the story, and she wasn't able to report it. But the thing is, so here she gives her side of the story. And what did I say? Virginia Giuffre, told me, this is a quote, she told me everything. She had pictures. She's talking about Virginia Giuffre, who's dead. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. There's a responsibility there, by the way. We convinced her to talk to us. We. That's Disney. That's ABC, and her specifically. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. Okay. So, with that, what does she say?
She had it years ago.
I mean, I wrote this in 2022, and she's talking about this is sometime before that. And then she'd spent years developing the story, and before that, she was in hiding for 12 years. And then look at how we are now. You know, we're doing everything Israel tells us to do. We're at wars, bombing people, you know, in other parts of the world, and the people in the United States don't really know what's going on. You know, we got the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals, and we got World Cup. Lots of things people are talking about. They're distracted. And then you have Allie Carter. She's not unlike Virginia Roberts. It's different. They're different colors. They're on different coasts. They're experiencing it in different ways. The ways they got ensnared are different. Both were abused as children. Both got caught up in a system. Neither were protected. And they basically have the same people on the other side. Except for the difference is, you know, Virginia was in Australia and then murdered. And she looks a lot more like the children of the people who are doing the cover-up. Whereas, you know, Allie is here, still alive, protected by the mom who adopted her. They're similar in that they have boxes of receipts. But nobody's going to report that story. I mean, Amy Robach already told you how it went down.
Well, they don't report it. 60 Minutes Australia reports some stuff on Virginia before she dies, but it looks like after she dies is when they get the go-ahead.
Well, yeah, because you got to control that narrative. So you tell it. I mean, if you didn't say anything about it after she died, that would be too suspicious. So they manage the narrative.
Yeah, and then they released her book, and they, you know, decided to control it and let her brother speak to, you know, Congress and stuff. But they couldn't do any of that years ago when all of this was trending, and she was alive.
Yeah, they released the book, but it's like half a year after she dies, and they released the book, but people are left to wonder if they took things out of the book. You know, they released the book, but not, you know, not necessarily her journal. So it's just,
yeah, it's a narrative control.
It's obvious is that, I mean, look at where we are. So that was Amy Robot. That itself should have been huge news. That's ABC, which is Disney. They're not reporting that story. They even said it. They even told you one of the reasons they did it. It might be the ultimate reason, or it might be just one of the reasons. But she says it's the palace. It's England. It's the royal family specifically. It's the people who have gold from Africa. Those people. The Germans who came over to England and now rule that island, which, you know, maybe is ruling the world. At least they're one of them.
Yeah.
You know, a place that our government broke from.
Well, and I think this might be a good time to mention the royal family can't be talked about. You talk about the royal family over there, and they will literally, they can and have thrown people in jail, targeted them, harassed them, arrested them.
Right.
Showed up at their door because of a tweet. If you reshare a Facebook post that, you know, dogs on the royal family, it's not unheard of that you'll be stalked or, you know, followed.
Right.
And they'll let you know why. So
well,
that's...
you got to wonder if that's much different here at this point, you know, because they do the same thing, but by other means.
Yeah, they do. But we're allowed to talk right now. Thank God. Like for instance, Dominic Halpin from Targeted Cognitive Liberty, Mind Control. He spoke up in Britain and was followed and harassed and knocked on his door and everything. But he can interview here and be shared. So I think it feels more dangerous to share there, whereas here we can still talk about it for now. I don't think that every level can talk about it, and I don't think that we're not closely getting to that point.
Can you talk about it on national news?
Well, no, but I'm not sure he could either. But I'm like, we can share a Facebook post here for now, some of us, on some topics, whereas over there it looks like it's a lot tighter and quicker. They'll show up at your door.
No, I mean, I understand the difference, and I mean, in the Second Amendment and different government and all the corruption. Yeah, I mean, I get all of that, but
I don't think anybody on any news network can talk about things that the owner
really can talk about it though, because like if you look at the case of Megan Walsh, I mean, once she got to a certain point, they just took her account.
Well, every time she gets to a certain point, her parents text her and ask her to go to therapy for being crazy. They've consistently pulled those threads of control on her, just like she's in the conservatorship of, you know, the Britney was in, and
yeah, that's what
it's a contrived network, and they control the media too. So
in the case of Megan Walsh, it's like maybe they can't do everything that they can do in England because we have laws that at least on paper protect us in ways that they, you know, free speech specifically, that they don't have in England. Also the Second Amendment. On the other hand, if the goal is to just make sure that the narrative is controlled one way or another, then, well, maybe you got to let people talk, but then you just take out their platform. Or maybe people can talk and you can't put them in jail for talking, but you can threaten their children or their livelihood or something.
Well, yeah, which they did. They took all of her children. So that's where it's concerning. And right. The thing is she's not, the thing that I find most interesting about her case that the public is doing, not most interesting about her case in general, but like the public is doing something that's awful to her. That I see whistleblowers get attacked, but to her, they're literally like, her 4 children. There's millions of children in danger. So they're literally turning this around like, why should I care about her 4 children? And I've seen that in so many comments that parents that don't understand the scope of what she's disclosing. It's 4 beautiful children that deserve to be with their mother. That's enough fighting for. But it's also, she has said that that's the precedent in court. That's the issue that they're using for other parents. She's controlled her story and said, hey, this is what they're doing to middle-class Americans all over and lower and other classes. They're doing what they did to me to all of these parents. And she has said that for years. She said, it's not about me, but what about my kids? Look, you're doing all of this stuff. What about my kids? Why is that wrong? That's not wrong in any way, shape, or form. And the public narrative is, there's millions of kids that are hurt. Why did you have to say that? What point decided that was a valuable statement? And it's not just one person. not just one network. That's a huge narrative that people think up on their own naturally to comment on these things. And I don't understand that. That's got to be one of those V2K things that people are just getting, or these are all robots, because that's not a normal parent perspective. Yes, for children, but also we've got to do this. That's dangerous.
I almost feel like maybe one of the things that we should do, I mean, I feel like if we wanted to, we could just sit here and we could like program an entire year of programming just stuff. So like one would be, there are fundamental studies in psychology that I don't think people know, and if they did, and even people who've studied it, like there'll be people who are familiar, but I don't think they've really thought about like what it meant.
Like studied the studies.
Like people are like, well, you're brainwashed, well, propaganda, or well, V2K.
But how does that work?
All of that, but like I was actually thinking, one of the big ones is the Ash Conformity Study. So ASC, I think is how it's spelled. But it basically just shows how it has to do with peer pressure and conformity. And it's like if you have a room full of people, what they would do is, and it's been replicated in lots of different ways, but just super generally, the idea is you show people stuff and it's obvious what the truth is. But you have a bunch of actors.
Right. Where will they go?
The person you're studying, and you have all of the actors. They look like they're just participants as well. And they're all picking the wrong thing. So like which one is which thing is different. They've replicated it. So it's been done a bunch of different ways. But what happens is so many people will substitute the consensus judgment of the group for their own judgment.
For truth.
See and perceive it in their eyes. And so a lot of that explains like how people are. Like if you could get any of them in a room and say, hey, look, here's what happened with Megan. She's doing this, she's doing that. Here she's a baby being held by Reagan. Here she is 40, 30, 35 years later having her baby taken from her by her dad's friends, and her dad's the guy that's on TV that everybody knows, and her dad's the guy that was with her mom on on camera, the most famous thing going on. That girl. Like, do you think we should just listen to her, or do you think it's just like she has babies but there's millions? So that's one thing. Like that's just that one study. You don't even have to go to voice of God programming people, telling them what to do. That also.
A conformity study.
It's just basic. Just basic stuff. In addition to like your. Is it in your book, Marketing is Mine?
We talked a little bit about that, not in the ebook that you have. In the print book, there's some.
Yeah, so it's a thing, but I just want to, with Megan real quick, one other thing. So like I promote and advocate her case pretty hard. So you go like, well, why? I'm in California. She's in Florida. I don't know her, but I've followed her for years. So, like, for me, I think it's important. So what does it have to do? My primary goal is to protect my own children and then also kind of explain and make known what's going on in my case and the corruption around it. And I think in doing so, it will help many, many people, like, especially in Orange County and at UC Irvine, but elsewhere also. So the thing about Megan's case is, so if there's Kathy in Spokane, Washington, and her children were taken, and then she's able to get justice in her case, let's say, then that's awesome. And in her world, that's the most important thing, and it is. But how does that affect me or you or any other people? Megan, on the other hand, has been in the public eye her whole life. She's got super high stakes people on the other side. And so if she wins, it exposes everything.
A lot.
It helps everyone a little bit. And she's aware of that. She's also aware of the fact that had she just gone along with the program, she would be fine.
Well, and she's said that, and that is the most heartbreaking situation because that's how systemic this whole thing is we know that this is the right answer, but I want my children back, and if I just never would have said anything, I'd have my children. That's horrid that we have to live in an environment like this.
That is really bad.
Yeah, because she's being threatened with, go to therapy, but this therapy's a tarot card reader when she's been suggesting actual therapy for her and her family for years so that she could get custody back. And they just want to choose their controlled network.
Even if it's the best therapist in the world, best therapist that's ever existed, it's still corrupt, it's still bogus, it's still, there are people in case they're the ones who should be in therapy or in jail or something like that. But anyway, my point was that, like in the case of Megan, she stands.
People conform to group norms.
I was trying to think of all of the people, because I'm thinking, okay, I got high stakes people in my case, both institutions and people, famous people, politicians in Congress, politicians in governor, professors that are either famous in their field or maybe even beyond that, and then billionaires and institutions and people who want to do stuff and get it done. And if what's known about my case is made widely, is widely publicized, then a lot of those things are in jeopardy. They're in big trouble. So I was trying to think, and I have 3 children. So, one is in high school. I mean, he's still under the jurisdiction of the courts even now after all of these years. So I was trying to think like, okay, so who else is in my kind of position? And one of the people I think of first is Megan, because, I think mine's pretty big, but hers is bigger. She's more famous, like she's in the White House, and et cetera, et cetera. I was thinking, but I mean, I still see my son. I'm still raising him, and I have to deal with custody stuff with my ex and her family. Like her parents are stage parents, Hollywood stage parents. So I'm like, who else is doing that? So Megan, and it's horribly tragic, but she doesn't have that ongoing connection with her children, which is worse.
Yeah, they ripped that straight out of her arms, which was
right, horrible. And same thing.
Someone sent a message.
Same thing with Julie Holder. So I'm trying to think of, so that's worse.
Well, and Wendy too, right? Didn't they take her children away for doing the right thing?
Yeah, and then she was murdered.
Yeah.
But so I was trying to think like who's in, so those are all ways in which I can look at my circumstances and go, well, I should be grateful at least to that extent, that it could,
right.
It could be. But I was trying to think, but it also means that when I talk as someone who is still with my children to some extent.
Right.
They've been taken from me. They've been taken from everything, really.
Well, they were definitely taken from you and your house and their comfort, their plan,
their community and their schools and their childhood and a bunch of stuff. But I'm still like dealing with them. So like when I say something, it's not about like what happened in the past and I'm fighting for you. It's also like when I say something, it reflects the students who are in school, our 2 youngest are in high school. I mean, so when I talk about it, if anyone were to look at it, so they know what I'm saying, it affects them. So I was trying to think like, okay, lots of people can relate to that. Who else is high profile in the way that I am? Who's still, in the middle of it? And I could not think of anyone. And I mean, it's not fun. It's not good. I mean, I like having people that are ahead of me, that know more than I do. It's not fun when you're there and you're like, is anyone with me? It's like, nope, you're just fighting all the monsters by yourself. Like,
right, and that's how you both said that, and that's where this high-stakes whistleblower system that we've put people into because they want to do the right thing and protect their children is horrific. You both said, things to the effect of, I'm just talking, why can't you guys? I literally thought I was, like Megan has said, I literally thought I was going to tell the truth what happened, and the news was going to be like, oh my God, are you serious? And cover it. And, like, how naive of me to think that the world was actually a good place in some areas where people were like, wow, let me help this situation. And she got immediately attacked and smear campaigned. And I think you felt that. And so it's an interesting, like, logically, these things that happen to whistleblowers don't make sense because we're screaming for the Epstein files. We're screaming to support the children. We're screaming to do the right thing, screaming to get all of the people out of the, world that have ever done anything wrong. But then when a whistleblower says, hey, this person that you know is doing something wrong, can you stop supporting them? You immediately question everything about that person, why they should even be talking, and then dog on that person instead of supporting them. And there's no method to that madness. So why have we been trained to do that? And the conformity experiments like that would make sense, but there's also got to be some sort of study that says that can be, like we can have our own autonomy and actually think for ourselves. And here's the 3 people that did stand out, and this is how you can be more like that.
Yeah. But I mean, and it's not the only one, but just since we're talking about the conformity study, so that also explains why you want to grab and why it matters so much. Okay. So yesterday morning I saw this, Fiona Barnett. So she had posted something that says, this channel discusses how big churches use hypnosis techniques to place a group in an altered state of consciousness and influence to extract money. It's how she calls it, instead of Christianity, she calls it churchianity.
Churchianity, yeah. Big church business, yeah.
A nasty name. So this is someone who's a follower of Jesus, and she's criticizing some big churches. She says Freemasons and pedophiles infiltrated the churches long ago. So that's a pretty strong take.
Are you familiar with the Hillsong situation at all?
Not very familiar with it,
okay.
but you want to hear. So she's talking about, she says churches like Hillsong. You want to say something about it?
No, I was just wondering what your background is on that before I hear your take.
I don't know that much about it. My understanding is that it's one of the larger networks of churches, and I think it's under the control of one or several people, and they've come under criticism. Yeah, something like that. I have an idea about it, but I don't want to misspeak. I think that it's not just them, even if it's especially them. So
yeah, no, I wasn't trying. There's a lot of people that talked about this a while ago, and they were followers, listeners, worshipers. They listened to it all the time. I didn't know if you were coming from that stance or if you had ever never heard of them before this post. I just kind of wanted the general.
No, I've heard of it. I think I know and have probably a little bit forgotten about it. And I want to be fair. I don't want to say things that aren't true. So I think that much is fair. And I think Fiona Barnett is actually one of the people who actually has had very negative experience with them. And I don't think she's alone. So, but anyway, this here. So I watched this. It was Sunday morning. Then, and I'm not going to put this on, but there's a 20-minute or so episode, and it's quite interesting, I thought. And so it's basically saying, look, these churches, they're run in a certain way. They use music. They use a kind of like a routine. It's scientific. It's psychological. So, there's church and there's faith and everything that goes with that. But then there's also psychology and science and frequencies and music and the way that it affects people, the way that it can put you in different states. And I thought it was really compelling, really interesting, about 20 minutes. So I listened to it. And I was really struck by it. And at the end, there was this quote. This is a quote. So it resonated with me. It said, if the path requires you to suspend critical thinking, enter a suggestible state, or accept things that don't make rational sense simply because of mystery or group pressure, and group pressure is big, then the resulting experience is inherently suspect, no matter how powerful or real it felt. So I thought this was a really good way of putting it, because it's put in if, then. So if these things are true, then. And then even the then, I think, is put just right. It doesn't say your experience is wrong. It's saying it's inherently suspect. And then that's true no matter how powerful or real it felt, because it might have felt very powerful and real. So I posted this less than 2-minute promo piece for a documentary about this thing called, it's something about the fire. But it's like this teen group ministry, and you can kind of see it. And then the last thing was, and then the original poster, Fiona Barnett, said exactly, which I took as a really big deal for 2 reasons. One is it's someone I respect who's a pretty well-known victim. Like her bio says, exposing CIA child sex trafficking, MK Ultra in Australia, MK Delta, Western Child Soldier Program. So she's a very prominent survivor and speaker. And my assessment is she's a brilliant person. So I care very much about that. She's also promoted by people who have blocked and defamed me. So there's that going on too. And she has not done so. So I very much appreciate that she at least allows my voice to be one of several. So, and then I think this is worth watching if you want to see this response so you can see what we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's a valid perspective too. Yeah, absolutely. Make sure the audio's on.
Let me play this so what this is. So after I listened to I read what I read, I listened to this for 20 minutes. This was a big part of what I took out of it. And then I thought, you know what? It's just like what these people are talking about here. Now, this was a documentary. It was on Amazon Prime. So, take it all for what it's worth. But what's great about it is it's the firsthand account of different people who were involved with this ministry. And it really presents the children and the minors and the teens as being really taken advantage of. So they're taking advantage of their time, their work, their adolescence. And then it's also spiritual abuse. So let's hear what they have to say. And I should say, and it's an example of what we're talking about. So the pressure to conform and other things. Very much marketing, including big church marketing, is mind control. So here.
Oh, and it is, and I don't think anybody will.
Do you ever hear music's playing?
Right?
Yeah, I'm not going to react the way the normal person's going to react. I grew up in not Teen Mania, but Faith Baptist Youth Fellowship, and a very similar thing on the East Coast. So that was a little triggering.
Sorry.
And no, not in a bad way, in a real way.
Right.
I mean, they do use marketing and mind control, but they do pull the emotional strings first and foremost. And they'll utilize them in a way that works for their bottom dollar. And it's not always what Jesus would do, and they'll slap Jesus's name on it. And I've seen that firsthand for decades. And so that documentary series was very, very right on point, and it proves a lot of the way that I think what Fiona was talking about with hypnosis and churchianity. It puts it main perspective, because if you don't read your Bible, if you don't feel that you can talk to Jesus yourself because you have to have an intercessor, then you're going to be vulnerable to the religion narrative.
Right.
If you want spirituality. Yeah.
If you look at it from the perspective of psychology, so I think there are people who will watch that and be like, well, I'm a Christian, and that does, I can see it for what it is. It's obvious to me. Or there'll be people of other faiths or no faith or whatever, but they'll look at that and they'll be like, well, how could you be so easily fooled? But then if you like the people that were in the videos when they were showing like the big church and the music and the explosions and everything going on, like it was connecting with them. You can see it. It's obvious. And then so like what was written or what was said was, if the path requires you to suspend critical thinking, did they look like they were suspending critical thinking? Yeah. Enter a suggestible state. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Accept things that don't make rational sense. Then the resulting experience is not wrong. It's not saying it's not authentic. It's saying it's inherently suspect, no matter how powerful or real it felt. And it felt more powerful and more real than probably anything to a lot of the people that were there. Now, that looked a lot like, like a concert. It looked like, like a Lady Gaga concert or something, or one of these EDM festivals,
I mean, that's how, so when I went to university, because I was the first one in my family to go to university, it was Cedarville, so it was Christian, but they were liberal arts, and it was a big deal. And our introductory, it was in September, so it would have been the first week of school. They had a big chapel that everybody had to go to every day for an hour in the middle of classes. But at that chapel, which was stadium seating, we would have special events. And in the first week, we had Switchfoot come and Newsboys. Right. And so we have a concert, lights, I don't think there was fire, but there could have been, in our chapel. And so it was a very interesting, I was like, this is the most amazing experience ever. This is what Christianity is supposed to feel like. But then everything is so controlled in terms of what you think, how you think, when you're allowed to think it, the time frame you're allowed to think it. It went from me thinking this is the coolest way to be a Christian to the next week I got written up and got a demerit thank you, because I had a gum wrapper in my trash can during RA checks, and our dorms were supposed to be cleaned before they come in. And so I went to chapel after cleaning my room. I ate a piece of gum, dropped my fresh gum wrapper in my fresh trash can, and I got a demerit for it. So, like, within 2 weeks, I'm like, this is the coolest Christian, blah, 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 blah. And then the next week, there was a gal in our dorm who left because she wanted to get married. So they left, they got married, and now they're going to live in the married dorms. And it was a big scandal because we're not allowed to have purple. You can't sit so close to each other. You're not allowed to do like these certain things. And so it was a strange situation because I thought, I'm an adult, I'm at university, I'm able to do whatever I want. This is a really awesome way to be a Christian and go to concerts and like feel like this is real Christianity in real life. Wait, I'm not allowed to throw gum in like a wrapper in my trash can? You're not allowed to talk to a man. I can't have a car for 6 months. Like, there were some very strange rules that they have their Christian faith behind, because it'll cause you to sin if you have these situations. And I couldn't rationalize that because it didn't make sense to me that that's what we're focusing on as Christians. We're worried about that. We're worried about gum wrappers or if people fall in love. Like, who cares?
Right, and what's the implicit message in that too? It's about like what's important and what's not.
It was like it almost felt, I don't know what their message was supposed to be because I didn't appreciate the school or stay very long, and went to something a lot more controlled. However, I think their message pushed that we are controlling you, and if you push back, it doesn't matter what it is, we're going to pull the strings. And if you don't comply, you're not part of the club. And people, it's interesting. But that part of Christianity, churchianity, they're very controlling, very wealthy, very, high reputation. Well, until the sex scandal recently, but they were very high reputation. All these different, that was a really good Christian university. Like, people loved the engineers that came out of Cedarville University. And it's just an interesting perspective when you think about all of these Christian organizations, clubs, teen camps, churches, mega churches, organizations are run by control factors that have the Freemasons that she's talking about with Fiona and stuff like that. That's another topic for another year. But the control factor in the churches that people just look past because it must be the Holy Spirit. No, That's not the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is not going to pull strings on you to do something that's going to profit somebody else. He might pull strings on you that's going to help you. Fine, whatever. But there's a control factor, and you have to be able to discern the difference. And they don't teach that. And when you grow up in church camp, when they pipe you in after lunch in your little groups, and you're doing the little duck dances, and then they're doing death scenes on the stage within a half hour, like, the whole situation is very controlled, and you're crying, and then you go outside and it's still 10 a.m. Oh, I have a whole day. I can go play dodgeball now. So, like, the whole thing is very much controlled, and they get you at, like, I think you go to your first camp at Awana in, like, second grade.
Yeah, it's really tough because it's so important, and it's such an important part of life, faith and your relation to God, whatever it is, and then, like, within families and communities. But that's also the reason why it's such a place that gets attacked, and why it's, can be dangerous too, or why discernment matters so much. But I was thinking about music specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hillsong is very much worship focused.
Is it? Yeah. And so the 20-minute video that I was posting about, which I do think is worth listening to. It's not a video. I think it's just audio, and it's done by AI, and it's conversational. I thought it was really well done. And but it talks a lot about, like, music and state and putting you into a certain state. And the idea is, and also that a lot of these churches that are doing this, they're doing it deliberately to put you in a certain state, to make it a certain way. And so it reminded me of two things. One was, so across the street, there's a big church called Mariners here. And I think a lot, so I'm not making a bad statement about Mariners. I'm also not making a good statement about it. It's a big church. We went to it for a while. It's across the street from UCI. I don't have anything personally bad to say about it. It's also where Wendy Miller's Celebration of Life was hosted. Now, there may be people who've had bad experiences with certain people there. It's almost for certain they would have, just because it's got thousands of people every week. So that's not this. I'm not making it anything. I don't want to be clear. I'm not saying anything bad about it. But anyway, one of the times that I was there, the head pastor was talking, and he made the point, and this is like 15 years ago, probably, give or take. But he made the point that, like, no army goes into war without music, without drums, without its troops, like they don't. And so they go first. So he's talking about like how important music and sound is as far as frequency, the beat. And then he was making the point, so that's how important music is to church. That's why we start with music. I hadn't heard it.
Well, I mean, music's in the Bible, make a joyful noise unto the Lord, but it's been co-opted.
Slaves sang gospel songs. So I'm not saying anything negative about it. It's just an observation. I also know from my time in Hollywood how important sound and music is, because to the extent that I did any work, it was in that area. And
yeah,
like low level, third assistant, go for this. That's a lot of things.
Would you be able to explain the soundtrack science when they talk about like Zeppelin tracks or whoever it was that they put the backing tracks on backwards that had subliminal messaging?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I think that technology is similar.
I've heard people talk about that, but I don't know. To me, that might be a red herring, or it might be something really important, because it also might be important for the people doing it more than the people listening.
That was what Mark Phillips was talking about the other day in marketing.
I just don't know one way or the other, but I think it's a real thing, and I think it's something worth studying. I just don't know. But what I do know is like that, the importance of sound. If you're not sure, just watch a scary movie and turn the sound.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's telling you how you're going to feel and what to do. It's like really programming in a way. And even that can be good or bad, but it's a thing. So I was thinking of that when I saw it. It's okay, I'm going to share one more thing I want to show you. So that was what I was thinking of when I thought back to where I went to school, which is USC, which has a band, and it's got sports teams, and it's got song girls, and it's got the whole thing going on. So it would be like the Hillsong Big Church version of university. And so that was what I was thinking of when I was talking about, I was thinking of the statement that was made at church, at Mariners, and about the importance of music and sound. And you don't enter anything without the music in front. So it's kind of put like, it seemed kind of stupid. Like, don't you want the tanks in front? Don't you want the infantry in front? Don't you want, your stuff? And he was saying, no, you want the sound. That's the first thing. It's weird. They're even in modern day, they talk about how there's some whistleblowers who've talked about like sound was the first thing they introduced in the Iraq theater. And, back when they took on Noriega in Panama, they were blasting him with music. So, like sound is always going first. Just something to think about. So thinking about that, here is USC at Disneyland before the Rose Bowl some years ago. And let me find, where do I share there? And this could be other schools. It's the one I know, although I do think it's a special one. So did Bryce Taylor. She devoted chapter 24 to it. And also, so like to find it, I was looking under my account. So Disneyland, this is for another time. Now, I'm blocked and deleted by a bunch of Disney whistleblowers and people who like to talk about Disney all the time, like Emma Catherine. And I just watch all of this. This is like firsthand stuff just about Disneyland. I'm trying to find something just to give you an idea. It looks like this. This is my Disneyland. This is just like what comes up when I'm talking about Disneyland.
Well, you're right there. You get the real news. You see the real places. Yeah.
I mean, just like, for instance, this is my email in 2016 with the UCI police chief who went on to be the police chief at Anaheim, which is Disneyland. That's just one thing. Danny Elfman doing Little Girls at Disneyland in 1995. Oingo Boingo was a huge thing in Southern California. Anyway, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole series on Disneyland and just read your tweets.
Right, my tweets that are blocked. by this person who wants to talk about Disneyland all the time and, et cetera, et cetera. So
we started this with controlling a narrative, so it's still wrapping it in. They're controlling the truth coming out.
Right. So I went through my whole account inside there. I'm like, must be under my other account. There's a whole bunch of more stuff about Disneyland. Some you'll see is the same. Some of it's different. And I already did this, so I know it's here. But I just want to show you how far down you have to go. There's this much stuff that's being hidden from people. This is just Disneyland, just what we
Yeah. And for listeners, we're not scrolling through his photos of meeting Goofy. We are scrolling through news articles, quotes, screenshots, highlights, videos, all kinds of disclosure.
Yeah, that much just to get to here. And by the way, there's more.
Yeah.
Okay, so I found it.
Found it. There it is.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So when I wrote this, and when I posted this is in 2023. In fact, this is, I think, a month before I talked with Emma, actually, the interview that she ultimately ended up deleting. So this is what I posted. I went to school here. I was recruited here. This is Disneyland. I can hear the fireworks from my house. If I go outside, I can sometimes see them if it's clear. That close.
Yeah.
So here, this is what I mean, though. So the music goes first. So, it's football, but, all of it. So think MK Ultra, think about importance of music and sound and frequency. Think about, even just with the volume off, right? 17 and 18-year-olds, you think they'll be, some of them will be impressed by this. Maybe not you.
For cheering, yeah.
Just for the impact it has. Think about what Bryce Taylor said about this place. Is it true? Is it not? Okay, so it's short. It doesn't go on too long.
It's very suggestive dancing for a Disneyland position.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Disneyland Resort.
March related.
Head cheerleader comes up. She's like, what am I doing? The control, you're going to go out.
Mm-hmm.
And even this, it's not necessarily bad. It's kids. They're, young adults.
Well, when you talk about Monarch programming, it looks normal, but
well, yeah.
There aren't any other cheer moves that don't have to show sexual things like that to children. That's where I get confused, because that's where I look at the Monarch programming over that's just dancing.
I don't even know about that. Again, I'm not more suggestive than some things, less than others. They wear sweaters. Other universities, are far more revealing. It's music, it's sound, it's visual, it's planned, it's at Disneyland. That's why I said, I say no one does MK Ultra like Disneyland and USC, which is pretty much what Bryce Taylor says. And I said that before I even read a thing she said. I also like the school. I had a good experience there. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about it. I'm just trying to understand what's going on. I have people who hate Stanford, UCLA, Disneyland, USC. That's their whole brand. That's all they're talking about, who block me. I went to school there. I was recruited by that school. I know.
Do you think they block you because they think you're dangerous because you went there, or because you know things? What would be a logical reason why they would block you, knowing that you're talking about the stuff they're researching?
Well, I think that's a really good question. So, I'm going to use Emma as an example, because that's a specific person who interviewed me, talked with me for hours about it, and we also communicated a lot on social media, so X, Twitter specifically. Why would she block me? So her stated reason is that I'm not safe and to protect survivors from me. But that drops all context. First of all, I'm here in Orange County, and I'm connected to that place in lots of different ways. Not the least of which is that I was married to a former child actor who lived down the street from Disneyland and did a lot of work that was, adjacent to it. So why? Well, one reason is I'm a dangerous person who is trying to take advantage of survivors, and I'm running some sort of grift and some other stuff. But you run into obvious problems really quickly. So while I was grifting, I lost lost a $1 million plus home on campus and had my children taken from me and basically everything else. So my grift isn't working very well. Also, there are exactly 0 people in real life that will say that I'm a predator. I mean, who know me? Where are they? I mean, I've lived on campus. I might as well have been naked in a glass house here, middle of campus, in a home with children, by the dog park, people walking back and forth in front of my house for years. People like Katie Porter, who's running for governor, in front of my house for years. So why wouldn't you want to talk to me? Why would you delete my interview and then go make a great effort to scrub the internet of it? There's no video of it because it's been completely eliminated. One person who goes by Red Pill Mom found one audio mirror of it in Sweden, and I was able to download it before that was deleted too. So that's the effort that Emma went to make sure that I couldn't be heard. Meanwhile, she has people like J.R. Sweet, who tells his story, and he's written about it, and it's persuasive with many survivors. So I don't know what, and to the extent he's telling the truth. But like everyone, I start him at 100%, and until I know otherwise, I'm going to assume that he's telling the truth, and he's recalling what he recalled, and it's an incredible story, and I'm really interested in it because I'm connected to the place in lots of different ways, and I'm here right now. But even he blocked me, and why? Because Emma did. So I have this person who, it's kind of like what we were talking about with the conformity study, and then also managing narratives and why people aren't reporting on Allie Carter. Well, if what I'm saying is false, I mean, if I'm a liar and a grifter, then why isn't that news? Because that means opposite me is a child actor who somehow escaped the problems that affect so many other child actors. I mean, aren't you interested how she did it? And so for instance, Emma's husband, Gray, guy goes by the name Gray, says that she's a victim of satanic ritual abuse. He says that. Those words, not abbreviated, spells it out, not qualified in any way, just as a bald fact. I don't know that that's true. I don't know it at all. The most I know is that she is a victim of what I consider very serious child abuse. If nothing else, she was put in that environment by her stage parents and really left to fend for herself. What happened to her? I don't know. I can guess, I could suspect, I could give the odds, as I understand them. I listen with great interest to people, but people are talking about my ex-wife. This is someone I loved. We have 3 children.
Lying.
She broke psychologically. Maybe she was a victim of it. That would be a hell of a thing because I don't know that firsthand. Don't know.
Well, and acting like you're a violent or dangerous person because she is that,
right? And
you're somehow hurting her, which none of that is the truth, but that was said last week, I think. So what part of that is safe to the Survivor Network if that's the kind of truths that are gathering like rolling stones to gather empathy for people's... It's weird.
This is a huge problem because there are few people who are holding it down. Like I point to Emma specifically because she's in this community, but there are others. Prior to her, Susan Bassey, a reporter in California, did the same thing in a different kind of environment. So it's a pattern. But speaking specifically about Emma and Gray, and then also people like Fiona, which, by the way, I'm going to talk a little bit about her, like really quickly. So I didn't really know her. She comes on my radar pretty late. I was aware of the name and that she was from a place far away. So she's in Australia. So I'm thinking, I don't think less of it. I just think it's remote to my experience. And I wasn't aware of her like circa 2019 with Isaac Cappy. I come to understand things about that later. But anyway, a prominent voice. I start reading her book. And it's apparent to me right away that she's really well informed and quite brilliant, actually. And as someone who did not have the kind of abuse in childhood she had. So I very much did not have that. I want to be clear. But I've had my own kind of trauma. I found it extremely painful to have to watch my children really be abused in a systemic way in the midst of people with incredible affluence and power and resources. It's a kind of gaslighting. So anyway, I come to her with like a lot of curiosity, I guess, to begin with. I don't know, but I'm struck by how smart she is. And then I'm also amazed that she's able to put it together like that after what she's been through. Because I'm thinking it's hard for me, and I haven't been through that. And then I read her book, and she's not just talking about the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, but she's talking about the Frieds. And she's not just talking about Peter and Pamela, but she's talking about her daughter, Jennifer. And so I realized this is someone who knows a lot about what she writes, and it's from experience.
Yeah, not just researching on a YouTube or something.
Right, but she was recently interviewed by Emma, which was after she was interviewed by a very famous Australian child star that I didn't know, but that's only because I'm not in Australia. If I had been in Australia, I would have certainly known who she was. And one of the things she said, because she's an incredible person herself, and her name I don't know, it's escaping me, but she interviewed Fiona Barnett, a series of 4 rather short ones, but put together it was a long interview. And she was talking about coming to the United States, and she was talking about how much bigger the programs are that are run against them in Hollywood. And of course, I'm thinking of my ex-wife, who was, I think, contemporary with her or close, within a few years. I think her last name was Moynihan, and I highly recommend her channel and her interviews with Fiona. If ever we post this, I'll put it underneath so people can see it. But anyway, Emma, somebody who I say, because I invite people to figure this out for themselves, don't take my word on it, but I say, was friendly with me, who invited me on her show. I never asked, who I told the truth to and answered every question for over 3 hours, and then betrayed me hard. Lied and continues to lie about me. This is the person in control of the largest library of MK Ultra testimonies. And I'm saying she lied to me. Just Thursday, I was with, here's an aside. This is something I mean to write about. Excuse me. On Thursday, I was at a distinguished professor's retirement celebration. And for over an hour, I sat right next to Beth Loftus, who wanted to catch up with me because I don't think I talked to her for over a year, and she wanted to know all about my case and my ex and all that. So she's somebody that I think, like Fiona, for example, is like a really dark person. Mm-hmm. And that's fair. But I'll just put it like this, and this is something for anyone in this community to consider. To the best of my knowledge, as far as it goes, this person that I've known since I think 2019, could have been 2020, so Elizabeth Loftus, has never once lied to me. And I've talked to her for probably a few hours if you put it all together, total. I mean, over an hour just on Thursday. So never lied to me. Doesn't mean she's good, doesn't mean she's bad, doesn't mean she's right or wrong. I mean, there's a lot of questions about her, I think, and that's fair. And by the way, I don't know that she wouldn't answer them, but anyway, that's her deal, not mine. From my perspective, has not lied to me, far as I know, okay? But Emma has, and it's obvious, it's documented. So
who you and about you in order to control a narrative, if we just put it simply.
Right. So all these people that are, with their podcasts, their little podcasts or their medium podcasts, they're doing shows and stuff. This is a fact. I'm saying, I know Beth Loftus. I know her in person. Talked to her for over an hour. I mean, I wasn't talking the whole time. We were at a celebration. I mean, more accurately, it's probably 2 hours. So we're sitting there having hors d'oeuvres served by UCI Catering. She's a distinguished professor of psychology. The honoree, the person, that was being honored, is also a distinguished professor of psychology. I mean, if people really wanted to know the truth, they would want to know what I have to say.
Yeah.
If I'm a predator and my ex is a victim of satanic ritual abuse, by the way, she's also a professor and also has a PhD in psychology and education.
In the terms of motivation psychology, not just like I study the brain.
Her expertise in motivation, which is a positive connotation for manipulation. Negative connotation.
You motivate people to buy your products using mind control techniques on marketing. I mean, it's
right.
Motivation.
Why does it matter what I have to say?
If they study that topic, that's curious, right?
It's curious to me why Emma is trying to protect everyone from someone she interviewed for 3 hours and then deleted the interview. Like, wouldn't it be a more normal thing to say, hey, guess what, guys? I know that I'm a master hypnotist and I'm an NLP, but I want you to trust me. And so here's where I made a mistake. Here's where my discernment failed me. Let me tell you how Brad tricked me. But she doesn't do that. So she's a liar.
Yeah, that would hit a lot harder.
And I don't even really have a problem with hypnotism per se. I want to know about it. I mean, per se. I mean, as far as it goes, it's a real thing. So it should be known, studied. If it's black magic, it's black magic. I didn't talk about that. It's used. I mean, marketing is mind control.
It's used in all kinds of things. Yeah.
It's used in, I mean, that was kind of the point we started with. It's used in
church.
Yep.
You know, the churchianity post that Fiona put up is, that is. And that's where hypnosis, when it's done and someone doesn't, you're not going to a hypnosis to help you, right? Hypnotist. So it's not like I'm consenting to my brain being altered by your patterns. It's done in marketing, which means I have no control over it. If I scroll and it hits me, that's not something I chose. And these podcasts where they come, you come to it thinking, oh, you're talking about truth, so I should trust this. I can think for myself and trust this. And then you use NLP or hypnosis techniques, or you're run by a hypnotist. That's not the safest pattern, especially if you're not, like you said, saying, hey, I'm a hypnotist, but this is why I'm doing this. You're lying about it. That's a problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, but like, so anyway, to bring it back to Emma though, so she deletes it instead of leaving it up there. So
right.
Why not?
That would have been...
The normal thing to do would be to leave it there because that's the evidence of the lies. Say, like, see, he said this, and that's not true. And I asked him this, and he said this, but that's not true. She doesn't say that. She says, I'm deleting it to protect my followers from the dangerous person without giving any information. Like, just believe me.
Like, danger how?
Yeah, I mean, like, even if you took her at her word, like, say that that's true, well, then how do you know that she's not making the same mistake again? How do you know that her discernment isn't continuing to fail?
Well, and if we can go back before too long, because, you know, she's making statements now talking about deleted interviews, which she's never done before, other than say that, you know, YouTube has deplatformed her. It's never been a thing that she's talked about deleted interviews. And she never did delete interviews. From my understanding, if she did something with somebody, it was up there. And then her channel got deleted after and the whole thing broke on Twitter and everything. Her channel randomly got deleted. Yeah. So now there's a public narrative where, okay, Brad, but she's talked about deleted interviews and that they are deleting them. Come on, Brad. That's not even the truth. Like, this was years before any of that happened, and she hadn't been deleted. She had podcasts with everybody that were talked about all kinds of topics. And you talk about Elizabeth Loftus and knowing Elizabeth Loftus, which you don't even think you talked about in the interview. I thought you did, but you might not have. So what part in the interview is dangerous? What part of your story is dangerous? We don't know. It got deleted.
So I have a hypothesis. So I don't know that this is true. This could be true. It could not be true. But I think there's a good chance this is what happened. So what I think happened, because the interview was up for almost a year, and it came down right when Dave Min was running for Congress and some other stuff was going on. I think what happened is she had to get rid of my interview. I think that's what it was. I think it's not that it was so dangerous. It's that it kind of was dangerous, but it wasn't to Emma's followers. It was billionaires and people in politics. I mean, big politics. Governor of California, Congress, Senate, Adam Schiff, that stuff. And so I'm not that big a deal. You know, I'm a guy. I'm not that much different from a lot of people. I had a few things going on that other people don't. But, you know, I didn't have, like, enormous wealth or success or anything like that. I was a guy trying to raise children, and I was doing it in a particular place, and just kind of found myself in the eye of a hurricane that wasn't even here when I got here. So Emma had that interview, and I laid down a lot of facts. So I didn't tell crazy stories. I just told facts about people who'd been murdered, people who were, kind of famous in one way or another, and things that mattered, in institutions that were inherently corrupt, about which I knew because I was right inside of them. So it's not that I'm that big a deal, but the people I talk about are, in terms of the world. And so I think Emma deliberately blew her channel up so that it would all get deleted, so that she could hide the evidence, so that she could rebuild it. Not unlike the way that, there'll be a fire in a place like Lahaina or Pacific Palisades or wherever. And, be like, man, it's tragic all those homes were lost, right? But that sometime in the future, there's going to be new owners with new structures, and they're going to be theirs. And so I kind of feel like that's what happened to her channel, and I suspect it had to do with me. Now, that's a big deal. That's a big thing, especially a channel that has such significant whistleblowers. And it's kind of a hard one to come to. So I don't come to that one easily. I come to it kind of late, but how else do you explain it? And I mean, my case is connected to a lot of stuff. I mean, Allison Mack went to my ex's high school, and they both, they're both like in Orange County, in acting. Allison Mack's more famous, but my ex is a professor, I mean, they're both doing stuff. Allison Mack not only went to her performing arts high school in Orange County, but she also went to Berkeley, like my ex did. She not only went to UC Berkeley, but she studied psychology. I think she graduated. And by the way, she also had a sweet deal in that whole Nixium thing. So that's
and she's already out. And she's apologized.
That's just one thing. I mean, so for another one. When we got here, the chancellor was this guy named Michael Drake, medical doctor Michael Drake. So he's at UC Irvine. So after we're here for a while, he ends up at Ohio State. But before he goes there, he's here, and so is his son. And his son is a PhD student. And of all the schools that he could be in, he's a PhD student in education. So if you look, his son will have a PhD degree in education from UC Irvine, which is where my ex-wife was a professor. So now I know, and this isn't anywhere else, but I know that she advised him, at least a little bit, informally. It's not going to be formal. It's not going to be documented. So he, as a student, is in her office as a professor, and they're talking about his career, whatever it is, once or twice or more, I don't know. So that's what she said, and she was telling me about it at the time, and that would be a really big. So she's telling me about it at the time, which makes me think she's not being sneaky about it. So I'm not saying there was something sneaky. I'm just saying that's a fact. It wasn't something hidden from me that I found out about. She was telling me, and why wouldn't she? She's a young professor, and that's the son of the chancellor. So where does he go next? He goes from UCI, he's the head of UCI, to Ohio State. He's the president of Ohio State. While he's the president of Ohio State, he's on the board with Leslie and Abigail Wexner, Abigail Koppel Wexner. Abigail is the chair of the board of trustees that runs the university. And Les Wexner is the biggest donor and benefactor to Ohio State University. He's also Jeffrey Epstein's benefactor. He also owns Abercrombie Fitch and a bunch of other stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
No, Wexner doesn't own Abercrombie.
He did.
I want to say it.
He did.
Not Abercrombie. He owns Limited. He owns Gap. He owns all of those. Abercrombie, I want to say, is Mac Jeffries, something like that. He's another billionaire that's a problem.
No, I'm right about this. I know what you're talking about, though. I think he was maybe the COO or something, and they did change the ownership. But no, it's all part of the same L brands.
He owned Abercrombie? Oh, he acquired it in 88. Good. Oh, he hired Mike Jeffries.
Right, see?
That's not known. Thank you for correcting me. Because Jeffries gets all the publicity. There's a whistle, and I might not be correct on all of that then. But even like Barrett Paul talks about Jeffries.
I'm just saying, in Victoria's Secret and a bunch of other stuff, it's directly related to UC Irvine and a bunch of stuff. Also the Irvine Company. Bunch of stuff. Then Michael Drake goes from Ohio State after like 6+ years to the University of California, where he replaces Janet Napolitano. Janet Napolitano, who was outside of my office when I went back to work for UCI in 2017. Maybe a coincidence, maybe not. These are all like facts. So anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
Like, why would Emma blow up her own channel because of you? Well, I mean, she deleted the internet and went to great efforts to do it. Her entire brand is in jeopardy because it's built on a big lie, which is that I'm a predator and all this other stuff. And it's a lie that you really don't have to believe me. You just have to look at it because it's all there. I found the interview. I published it. And
so the ties to your UCI situation with Wexner make a lot more detailed sense.
Don't they?
Given the fact that he had ties to Epstein, Jeffries, and all these brands, children, modeling.
All of it. Victoria's Secret, the whole
malls.
thing. All of it. Yeah.
So that part.
I'm a big fish. I'm not saying that.
I mean, that would be a big fish. If she had interviewed you and talked about UCI, that's a big fish. Had anybody paid attention to your interview instead of listening to her? I mean, you had a lot of views on it before she deleted it. So had anybody put those dots together before she deleted it and then listened to her? That could have been a big wave of impact. Could have been. We don't know. When all that stuff started trending not long after.
I mean, I'm here. My advocate was murdered.
But
I mean, it's
so that's
over my case, which I did talk to her about that.
And you talked to her about Wendy. I know you talked to her about Wendy because I remember hearing that. So.
She asked me about Wendy.
Mm-hmm. And I think Wendy's case needs a lot more publicity. I would love it if every news article talking about family courts could talk about Wendy Miller. I don't understand why it wasn't discussed that she got murdered. We don't talk about Nancy Schaefer anymore.
Why wasn't it being discussed in the context of the governor's race? I mean, Katie Porter's my neighbor. She ran for Congress as a victim of domestic violence and also on the Violence Against Women's Act, also Me Too. So she ran for Congress as a minivan driving single around the corner from me, who was a victim of domestic violence, but nobody will even talk about the fact that the best advocate in the United States was murdered in Newport Beach, and her last major speaking engagement was on campus at UC Irvine, where Katie Porter was a law professor. And she's not even the national politician that's most closely associated with what happened. That's Dave Min, whose wife was the co-host of the event that I was at, is the only dad. And I mean, two of the main things that we talked about, in fact, I'm not sure how much we talked about much more than this, was one, by far the most, how to protect my children. And by that, it was mostly my daughter, who was 11, our daughter. And then the other one was that once I got things a little bit straight, then we were going to work together because she was awesome. I mean, and really awesome in a way that I'm not. And she was a psychologist. She had a master's degree. She knew.
So why wouldn't Katie Porter talk about her?
And she was excited to work with me, unlike all of these other people trying to get attention for themselves. She was excited to work with me because she thought,
yeah.
And then she was
Like,
did that have anything to do with our meeting, or was that just a really horrible coincidence? To me, it was a horrible coincidence at the time. Really bad all of these things from such a singular imposter. I have a lot of imposters. Why would that have to do with some guy? But then on the other hand, I look at who I'm next to, and I'm like, who else is sitting next to Beth Loftus talking about, inside baseball for a couple hours? Nobody wants to talk to me about that. Everybody wants to do deep dives about what they know about the false memories and television. She was my kids. She knew my kids. She's a person.
Well, not only do they want to not know about it, but they paint it as dangerous.
Yeah, if it's dangerous,
so that nobody will talk to you.
Yeah, well, if it's dangerous, then I'm right next to the danger.
As a whistleblower, which is who they promote.
It's not like my ex is not...
Because they're lying about her and they don't want to get caught on that, I would imagine.
She's a person in two ways. She's a professional actor, which means she used to be on camera.
Right.
You can look her up. She's on IMDb. You can look her up.
I was going to say, yeah, people that don't know, Children of the Corn, Full House, Fuller House. She was on that Michael Keaton show, Family Ties, as Alice. So we're not talking like one tiny spot.
And then also as a professor, which is different.
Right, tenured at a big, yeah.
It's not in the mainstream of the media, but there are people in academia who will be far more interested in or impressed by, or maybe even know more about people that are in the academia than they know about the
I'd love to see a conversation about that.
So this is someone you could reach out to. I don't even know if anybody reached out to. I mean, her Full House co-stars had her on a podcast. People in the wrote a news article about it.
That was right around the time that you were on Emma's show, too. And as a podcaster who's trying to gain clout or reputability or something to grab, legitimacy, that would be something, hey, remember when I interviewed her husband? See this People article? See what he said? Da, 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 da. I mean, most people do that kind of thing in marketing world. That's a natural thing. Not only does she ignore your situation, she cut it off. So,
right. I mean, think about, it's a different scale, but the whole, campus elements in America, Charlie Crick and all that. I mean, that's its own industry at this point. It's its own ecosystem. But what you have is one side and the other side, and they're going at each other. I mean, here you could look into what my ex is saying, look into what I'm saying. Who's right, who's wrong. Let's discover the truth. There's no interest in doing that. And then if you listen to the interview, you see I'm actually sympathetic to. So here's what I'm saying. As crazy as it is, this is published opinion, despite none of it, all of it. But here's what I'm saying. I've known Beth Loftus since probably 2020, it was maybe 2019. By the way, a lot of it's in writing, not a lot of that, but it's in writing, and you have the receipts.
And you've talked about that. You were referred to her because of a memory situation you wanted to discuss about your children, right?
My next door neighbor is also a professor. She's a professor of psychology. She's now a distinguished professor of psychology. My next door neighbor, I actually asked her because I was interested in something that had to do with memory. That's a little bit of a long story. And I realized that Elizabeth Loftus was here and that it was her colleague. And I basically said, hey, when I asked this person some questions about memory. By the way, I'm not thinking MK Ultra and all of that. I'm not even thinking about
right.
And all that. I'm thinking memory.
You're saying science of memory.
That name's familiar. Will she talk to me about memory? So that's a question. She said, sure.
Okay.
Probably. She said, just send her an email. Tell her you need my next week. So she didn't say I need to call her for you or anything. So I'm just like, hey, next week about coffee. And she said, that was how it started. So I actually reached out to her and we got in touch and then kind of knew her after that. And I mean, I was aware that I was talking to someone who was a very senior and well-known professor, and I was not. On the other hand, it gives you an idea of what my stature was, and it was that way. It still is with a few people, but mostly it's gotten weird because of all the stuff that's happened since. But it's not like I don't know them. But anyway, that's why are we talking about that? I can't remember.
You said, so what I'm going to say is I know Elizabeth Loftus since 2019, 2020.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, that's exactly what I want to say. So I've known her since then. I've said acquaintance. I mean, friendly acquaintance. I wouldn't pick up the phone and call her like that.
Right.
So I would say a friendly acquaintance. I try to be accurate. I don't want to claim more, but I don't want to claim less either. And I've known her for that long. By the way, Julie Holborn, who I advocate for in family court, knows her as well because I introduced her to her. So they know each other and have for a while. But anyway, I know her, like I said, to the best of my knowledge, she's never once lied to me. And we've talked about a lot of stuff. And she doesn't necessarily tell me everything. She might know stuff she doesn't tell me. I don't know, but that's what I know. I know for a fact that Emma has lied to me. And when I talked to Emma in the interview about my ex-wife, I talked about her. The context wasn't can you believe what this person did to me? The context was, this is a broken person who I have to deal with, who was a victim of things herself. So my main perpetrator, the person that's causing me the most direct harm, is an abusive person toward me, and very much so, but was also a victim of abuse, not exactly sure what, and that we're both victims of systems. So I'm a victim of someone who's also herself a victim of institutions that didn't keep her accountable, and then instead of trying to help her, covered things up, which seemed like they helped her in the short term, but didn't really. Helped her in the way that an alcoholic that needs to get sober and is suffering withdrawals is helped by more alcohol. Solves the immediate problem, but not the longer term problem. And then not only that, we lived on campus and had 3 children, and that they were the ones who suffered the most and were completely innocent. So that's the context of the interview that Emma deleted and doesn't want anyone to hear about, and also how she has been on a consistent defamatory campaign against me.
Yeah, that's the context of the interview that she uses to say you're dangerous because you were protecting your children and you were in proximity to somebody that she had heard of but hadn't researched clearly. Her and her group had not researched clearly who Elizabeth Loftus was.
Right, so that's the person who's in this, truth community movement. So the person who's most prominent in the deepest is alive. I mean, aside from the basis and all of the other stuff.
Which has been a proven lie to have been said too.
This or a version of this gets published at some point is... I'm not saying that the testimonies are untrue or are unimportant. A lot of her interviews I consider extremely important. And so in a few of those, Morgan Stellar Truth, she gave an interview. It's the only one I know of, really. And she explained about how her dad was a lawyer. She was the only child, and he was convicted of human trafficking minors, and it's documented. You can read about it in the newspaper. So everything that she says has that foundation, which is super important. Doesn't mean other people are less true or have less to say about it, but it makes her statements authenticated in a way that others aren't. My case is similar in the sense that a lot of it is published and was submitted under penalty of perjury, but I don't have a judgment, and it's not in the newspaper the same way. And then there are other ones that I thought were really significant or affected me significantly, like Carrie Alohe, Fiona Barnett, Callie Shea, and quite a few others, many others. So I want to honor and respect all of those people. I think it's super important. My criticism of Emma doesn't extend to them. But what I'm saying is the person who's in charge of these super important testimonies is a liar. She's not being honest. If she wants to get honest with me, then
that's fine.
Yeah, if we can reconcile this, I would love to do so. But
yeah, and that doesn't mean that everybody has to go off holding hands as friends. That means, can we have a conversation that says you deleted and lied about this, and you're telling other people to block me for what reason? I think that would be a good conversation.
I'm not even saying that. I'm saying, I guess I am, but vis-a-vis her, I'm saying, look, what I'm saying is this is the truth. I say this is the truth. I'm not saying you have to believe it. This is what I'm saying as factual. This other person is asserting something else. We should know what the truth is. And then this person, I'm happy to talk about it. I'm going to ask anything you want, and I will answer every question. And some of the questions might be, I can't talk about that for one reason or another. But there won't be a lot of things like that. But even that will be an honest answer. And she can do the same, and we can get to the bottom of it. But this is BS. And I really do, if you think about it, I owe it to the victims to let them know that this is my experience. And in a way, it's sort of like how it is with my ex. I'm not saying my ex is the most horrible person in the world, and you shouldn't listen to anything she has to say. I'm saying she was incredibly abusive toward me in these ways, and she herself, false accusations or lies. But I'm really complaining about the institutions. So like with that enabled it and allow it. With Emma, I'm saying it's not true, but that doesn't mean all of the testimonies aren't true.
Well, right, and it's not it's like, so the people that have interviewed on her podcast, it doesn't say anything about them because they trusted her. What it says is that she is a really good personality that will, I don't know how to say this nicely, a really good influencer personality that will attract people that want to talk. That doesn't mean she's honest. That doesn't mean she's legit. That doesn't mean that her intentions are legit. It might. She could be. We don't know. But when you just take the fact that people want to talk to her, that means she's trustworthy. It doesn't. It doesn't necessarily mean that her guests, have anything wrong with her or she's ever done anything wrong to them. That doesn't. Just because we're saying, look, this is a lie, she's done this is a controlling of a narrative, she's done this, that doesn't mean anything to everybody who's ever talked to her. And it seems like if you question her authenticity as her, whether she's lying or doing things from a good intent, that you are questioning the people who have talked to her. And that's not the case. You've made that very clear here today. That's not a logical response. We don't go, oh my God, ABC News talked to these people. That must mean these people are shady. We don't, it's news. Even to this day, we know ABC News is shady as shit. And if they called you and said, this is a really big article that you've talked about, I would really like to cover your story, that would still be great because a news network is covering your story, right? So it's not that who talks to the people are the problem. Is that network controlling a narrative? And you've kind of proven that she is because of the fact that your information was up there. She asked you to be on there. The information you talked about was disclosed, and then it connected into a lot of situations that I think, if survivors were listening to her other shows, they would want the dots that you have or the dots that you can connect them to. Mm-hmm. So logically, you've disclosed some information. She could say, this is good, this is bad, but she didn't. She lied, she contrived a narrative, she betrayed, she attacked
all of that, yeah.
Instead.
And to put it so where the rubber hits the road, one of the testimonies that most interested is James Sweet.
Yeah.
He's prominent, he's Mormon, he got kind of picked up and smelled early as a child, and he had all these experiences.
Yeah.
He's going to be similar to Fiona Barnett in a lot of ways. And some of the other people talked on his show. And then that's different from me. I don't have that. Whatever my experience was, and it is what it is, my ex might have had some experience that's similar to his, or she might not have, because I don't know. I know she was in Hollywood. I know she grew up just down the street from Disneyland. So he's interesting to me. I want to know what he has to say. I don't read it and think, do I believe this or not, or is this BS or anything like that. I read it with great interest, and I start at 100%. And a lot of what he has said is very hard for me to believe. But I've learned a whole lot, and I've found out that things that I thought were impossible, are not only possible, but true. So I've really expanded my idea of what's possible. So I want to know what he has to say, and I'm following him. I've listened to him talk for several hours at different, over the course of time. And I've read some things that he said, and I was following him with great interest and a lot of respect. So then Emma came against me, and then he blocked me. And that pattern has repeated many, many, many times. And so what it means is I don't have the benefit of knowing what he has to say, or it's a lot harder to get at it, and I can't interact with him. But it also means that he doesn't have the benefit of what I know and what I have to say. And it's not a pissing contest, and I don't have his kind of history of abuse as a child. I have my own history. and it is what it is. And who knows what I don't recall. But, I recall what I do. And I've been to Disneyland many times. I've been there with my kids. I've interacted with my ex-wife. I also know how she felt about Disney and Hollywood before she broke. And I was there when she broke. And I was there for all of it. So now I'm kind of like Shelley Carter. Again, not comparing orders of magnitude different, like orders of magnitude different.
Right.
With
Understood.
maximum respect. But I was there with somebody who had some childhood stuff going on that wasn't right. Children were altars.
Right.
I loved more than anything. So I mean, all of this. So I mean, I know what I know how I experienced it. I mean, most nights I hear the fireworks. What time it is? Because they do the same thing.
It's an institution in your region. It's not just a world that people talk about.
So I mean, I know stuff about it, and I'm contemporary with it. So like, Disneyland comes in and it comes up several times just that career celebration. We're finished. Disneyland's water.
Yeah.
We're immersed in it, and so somebody in some other part of the country, I don't know where, it's California, the state that touches right here.
It's a very, yeah, exactly. And it's a very dangerous situation when podcasters who have libraries of evidence, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say like news anchor or whatever, but they refuse to talk to or showcase evidence from first perspective. It's one thing when people talk about what they know, they've researched, discussions, stuff like that. But if you're going to cut off first perspective contact for people that are trying to put their first perspective dots together in their own stories, you're cutting off, like you said the other day, you're taking out puzzle pieces of a whole puzzle that needs the whole picture.
I mean, there may be lots of people whose recollections of their own child abuse in Southern California had to do with Disneyland in some way. Not anything to do with Disney, just with
mine. I was taken there, so a lot of people would value having your information to bounce off of.
Well, I mean, wouldn't it be something to have that in addition to, say, J.R. Sweet, in addition to whatever else?
Yeah, I follow both of you, and I find a lot of information from both of you. So why does the block happen for unwarranted reasons? It's different if it was a personal reason, whatever.
I might have puzzle pieces
that J.R. Sweet himself could use.
They might just be like tiny pieces in the background of his major puzzle, but they might be the thing he needs to connect it to another big thing. Don't know.
Right. And I'll be honest, you do have a lot of that because of your first perspective being there and the way that you just remember the places, talk about the places, and not name drop in a bad way, but like name drop the streets, the places, the things, the stuff. That kind of thing to somebody who is taken to Disneyland as a section of their life is needed, because those little details that we have from like a year in our life, they don't have the same context. I don't know what street that was that I was on, but I'm trying to find this place. I don't know this, but you have that. And so when I hear you talk, when I watch your podcast, when I read your stuff, you will mention things that are literally, you're not trying to give me a key. You don't even know I'm reading your post. And you will say things because of the interesting situations that have keys to like, oh, that's over there. I wonder if, and I can't tell you how many keys I've put together simply by reading your post, not interacting with you, not because I talk to you. Obviously that's a thing. But so imagine if that's just my experience, how many others there are.
Right. Yeah, no, and I'm mindful of that. So that's a part of it too. It's like I have an obligation to speak. Like if people are lying about me, then that's not right, and I should be able to stand up for myself. I also have children, and they should know the truth too. But even more, I mean, there are real victims out there that should know what's going on. And I mean, and it goes in lots of ways, not just like Emma and MK Ultra, like especially it could be even bigger deal here locally, just with the family courts and the school and the universities and the schools. But like, for instance, by putting forward a false narrative, so false accusation of domestic violence, it's 100% not true. It's not true. And everybody here knows it. And when I say everybody here knows it, I mean like 100 professors know it. And then spouses and children and lots of people. Everybody knows it. It's not even an open secret because it's not, I mean, it's not even a secret. It's just, it is. It's a huge problem because, so there's real victims, right? She's taken their resources. She's taken their sympathy. There are also male perpetrators who, man, how would I put this? By not getting our stories straight, it hurts everyone. It's not like, well, it helps women. Most of the victims are women, because it doesn't. It also doesn't help men, good men, who would like to help women, because they all get kind of put in the abuser pool. And it's like, well, what do you do? It ends up being like, well, if you're a man that wants to help women, one of the best things you can do is just not say anything. And that's super unhelpful, because if you say something, then you're going to get all this blowback. And one of the things that's really interesting about Emma is that was part of why she wanted me on her show. She was saying, come on the show. We don't have that many men talking. We need people like that. You know, she was really love bombing me in that way, in that specific way. And also appealing to my conscientiousness. Like, I'm like, okay, I'll do it, you know, and then to use that to defame me is horrible. And I should say this too, why people should believe me as a truth teller is not because I'm such a good person. I think I kind of got onto a more narrow path than I would have otherwise because of where I was. So I'm on campus, which means the people I work with are the people I live with. So everybody knows my business. I'm protecting children who I had come to care more about that and all about it, including education and development, than anything else. And then I was being falsely accused right at the same time as Me Too. And I could see the power dynamics, you know, like the stereotypes were very much against me. And so I was thinking like, well, if I stay on the straight and narrow, if I, you know, dot every I, cross every T, document everything, tell the truth, even if it doesn't make me look great, then I'll be able to, you know, no matter what happens, no matter Me Too, no matter, you know, men are usually the perpetrators, no matter anything, I'll have the truth and it'll be documented. So I got on this premise that was like, as opposed to I'm in this evil world, but I'm a godly person who always tells the truth and I'm just better than everybody else. It was not like that. I got on this narrow path in that sense, and I'm grateful that I did, but that's how I come to be where I've been telling the truth, you know. Long time ago, I was, you know, I had to get sober. I was an alcoholic, and my life was not straight then. I had to make amends and do a bunch of stuff. But that was like 30 years ago. So,
right, and we could talk about the AA stories you have for another week.
Another time. But just
yeah,
like,
but it gives context.
It's just
yeah.
I'm telling the truth. It's not I'm a good person and she's a bad person. It's more like I got forced onto this path.
Yeah.
Plus, I've said a lot of stuff. I've written a lot of stuff. I've tried to put a lot of things out there, not to get followers, not to shock and awe anyone, but just to lay down lots and lots and lots and lots of facts. And then say, ask me anything, find the contradictions.
Well, right.
Ask me about it, and I'll explain it, or I'll apologize, or I'll fix it, or I'll distinguish it, or I'll add to it, right? My whole life.
Yeah.
Telling you right about you, saying that's the truth.
Exactly, and it's not a personal vendetta that you're telling the truth. It's not a I don't like Emma. It's a I don't I don't want people who might need dots to feel that there's something about me that they need to block when that was a lie. And here's the truth. Think for yourself.
That's a big part of it. My first reason is, I mean, it is selfish in this sense. To the extent that lie has, and that defamation has taken effect, it limits my ability to do things. The most important thing of which is to protect and raise and experience life with my children. That was taken from me, not just because of Emma, but she was a big part of making that impossible, especially at the end. So it hurt me very badly. That's my number one reason. But also I'm aware that it does hurt and it does nothing to help other people. It's not like there's any benefit. So this is my perspective. There's no benefit from lying a little bit about me. I mean, that doesn't help protect survivors. The truth protects survivors. And it's a hell of a thing. I mean, she platforms people like Bryce Taylor and Carrie Alohe and Callie Shy Burgundy and a bunch of other people.
Right. Yeah.
Things. J.R. Sweet. She platforms them. She promotes them. These are people who are making huge claims. And I'm not saying that any of it's untrue. I'm just saying huge claims. Kathy O'Brien, Fiona Barnett, but not me. And the thing about me...
Right. Your claims are dangerous to her network.
My claims are not historical. They're not based on research. They're firsthand. And I mean, you look at some of the people...
Right. Yeah. And she interviewed Megan. Megan's not doing better. So, I mean, if we look at, are we getting towards solutions? No. Are we making people aware?
What are the fruit? Yeah, what are the fruits of it?
Right. She won awards for doing that, but that wasn't because survivors have been helped or...
That was like her, that was the
you know.
She's in. That's like getting an award from Scientology. You know, they like to give themselves awards.
Right, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Very good point. Well, and how much she was bragging about it, too, because if they look into it and be like, hey, that's dangerous, wonder why they gave it to her, and she's bragging being there, that's also interesting.
Yeah, so anyway, you know, and then there's Gray, you know, that whole thing. I mean,
That's a confusing situation that just seems like a firebomb. I don't understand much of that.
It's an opera. They're running an opera. They are. And if they say they're not, and then that's an honest statement, they're running an opera, they don't even know it because that's how they're it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, just remember to read it in case. And then we have to jump off here. My recording's going to stop here soon because of time limits.
How much time do we have?
I think I have 2:30. It might reset tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow it resets.
Is it okay to say one thing now?
Yeah, I think we've got like 20 minutes and then I think it'll kick somewhere in there.
Short. Yeah, this is short. Share the screen, share the audio. But I just posted it, so it won't be that long ago. Let me see. Yeah, this. I want to talk about this.
Oh, wow.
You can see that, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Some accounts in the truth community do evil for approval and belonging, which is pathetic. Others do it for greed. Sadists do it for fun. And so what I wanted to say mainly, you know, so this is all. They set me up with love bombs and take me out with lies. So that's true. I'm saying that's true. That's what people do. And then I want people to know, I mean, I don't know how many people see this, but maybe they will eventually, but I want them to know that I see them and what they're doing. And when I say I see them, these are people that I considered really good friends online, accounts, to some extent or another, people I rolled with, people I commented back and forth with. Some of them are fake. These are fake people. They're people that have bigger accounts than mine and that people follow and love. Some of them are fake.
Very much so, and that's concerning.
These are people I'm not going to mention right now, but I'll mention one, which is Jack Pendergrass, who's Maximum Disclosure, who I don't know exactly what his deal is, but he's no good what he's doing. It might be that he doesn't even know it. He's being tricked. He's being handled. He's being managed. He was lied to. I don't know. Anyway, people like that.
Yeah, I don't know him personally. I know his research comes off as he's doing it for the right reasons, but that would be, something to dive into.
Personally either, but I listened to, I think, 4 interviews that he did with Emma. It was about family court, which is what I was originally interested in. He lost his daughter. He was married to a lawyer, female, and they took his daughter. And, and so he's researching Maximus because of that. But he's been doing that.
That makes sense. That gives legitimacy.
Sense. And then he talked about it. And he did so really intelligently, and I learned from him. So I learned some things from him, which I very much appreciated. But when I fell out with Emma, then he was a part of it. So he's rolling with them. So, whether he's duped, whether he's complicit, whether he's managed, I don't know. But I know it's not right. Because I don't ask people to not follow other people. I just want to be a part of the conversation. And when they delete and block me, then that says something.
And then do a giant post that says, I don't like this person, you should all block this person right away. I think that's a little concerning. It's one thing to do the hype posts. I love these people. Here's my 10 favorite people. That's one thing. Okay. It's another thing to go on a blocking campaign and list people that other people need to block for their safety. Call it awareness, okay, but I think it's a smear campaign because that's telling people not to think for themselves. Don't worry about what those accounts say. Don't worry about what they're doing. Just block. Why are you okay with doing that? And a lot of people did that to you. I'm not talking for myself. They did that to me after the Emma Network situation. So people that trusted me, asked me for help, liked my story, supported my story, immediately blocked me without asking me a single question. Right. And if people like him or others that are other, influencers and have a large following will do that, you should go block this person right away. I would start thinking. I would think about that. That's not allowing you, that's not giving you the authority to think for yourself. It's okay if they say what happened, but...
Exactly. Because what you'd expect is something that would be more like, this is something to be aware of, or this was my experience, or something like that. So
exactly.
Like what I'm doing. In fact, I'll just use myself as an example. I'm not telling anyone.
Perfect example, yeah.
Not to follow her or listen to her shows or see her way and say lie. I suspect why that is, but I don't know for sure. And so people should be aware of all of these things.
And you're very clear to not speak if you don't know for sure. You say, I don't know for sure, whereas other people make statements, clarity, tell people to block people, and those are actual lies.
Yeah,
or they don't know for sure.
So then you're left with why do you have to block me? Why not listen to what I have to say? I'm going to put all of these really fantastic things out there, just huge claims. And a lot of them I believe are true. I'm not saying they're not true. You're going to platform all of these huge claims, but not.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And when you question it, there's literally no evidence other than posts of them calling you dangerous, and then reshares of posts of them calling you dangerous, and then reshares of those posts. But there's never actually, he was dangerous because, until you get to that one statement of, I think it was Fox saying, bringing killers into the network, referring to Loftus because you knew her, I was platforming you. So is that the danger? Is that the danger? The danger that you're disclosing, that you're telling everything about, that she knew about, that everybody knows about?
Yeah, no, it's illogical. That's also someone who thought that Beth Loftus
was your lawyer or something.
About anybody's lawyer.
Had said that was the lawyer that testified on behalf of Ghislaine. No.
So she didn't know a lot of things. So she revealed her ignorance pretty early.
But still, people took that ignorance and blocked you and me because of that. And then they still have us blocked. And they, right. So what have they missed? What have they fallen for?
Well,
and that's where it's it's not about me. It's not a Twitter battle. It's not a like battle.
That's how it comes to be where we started talking about Allie and then also Julie,
the NLP and stuff.
Orange County, yeah, and all of that is then the media itself has to become part of the story, which includes the alternative media.
Right, because we are the media now.
Supposedly, we should test that out because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense if what you're trying to do is find out the truth. But it does make sense if you're trying to cover up the truth. And it's also, if you think about it, it's not any different from what's happening at the national level. Like, people are really frustrated. Everybody wants disclosure. Everybody wants to find out what's going on and why is it redacted. It's exactly what Emma and company are doing. Exactly. They're telling a lot of it. It's not like they didn't release the Epstein files. They just didn't release all of them. It's not like they didn't show you what was in them. They just didn't show you all of it because they redacted it. Well, that's what Emma's doing.
Right.
You can't just say, no, there's nothing there. You got to platform a bunch of people, make it make sense. Make it look real. Make people think that they're digging in and finding out, and we're digging in and finding out. But meanwhile, it's not part of the matter. And a lot of the really interesting things are the things that are not said, that aren't published, that are redacted, and I'm part of that.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to show you this. So this is a video I made because I hope it's self-explanatory. This is one of these things I accidentally found while I was looking for something else. And I was like, dang, is that not exactly what it is? So this is someone's sock puppet account that was used to, ding me up, and I called it out, and I can't believe it, but it's still there. So this is probably one of Gray's accounts, but it's somebody's account. So check this out. Let's see what it is. I can't really remember. I just remember the feeling was like, yep, this is what it is. So here, let's see what's going on. So there's this guy, Basalt. Don't know who this is, but, he's reposting. That's what it is. So there's an account. It's got 909.
Yeah, that's a little creepy.
It's got 909 in its number. So there's 5 followers. It's got 909 is the area code for where Allie and I grew up. 909. That's the Inland Empire. That's San Bernardino, Riverside. Not Orange County, not LA, not somewhere else. So there's a guy with that. Fontana PD, that's one of the places where she was. San Bernardino, obviously. Okay, so there's a person with 5 followers with Fontana in San Bernardino and a bunch of other stuff with 909 in the name.
I wonder who's watching me now.
See what I mean? LA County, bunch,
That's a really strange, yeah.
Another one that was just into my stuff was O'Brien.
Tell me, is it just a dream?
Sorry, I'm trying to save people from the End Times. Stop. End Times Production. That's the account.
The Interlock and Dock.
Yeah, they made the Interlocking documentary with Kathy O'Brien and Greg and nobody else.
I don't know. Yeah. That's really odd.
And there's just so I guess that's it. So it's just odd, But here, check this out. And I did it as a recording because I don't want them to. I don't want them to delete it. Here for the people listening. So I asked Grok, what can you tell me about this account? 909 is the area code for Inland Empire. It's only got 6 posts, follows law enforcement in SoCal. It's where Allie and I are from. We're from San Bernardino, 909. Why is this guy in Tennessee that was a former assassin got this thing going on? And then what Grok says, it's like tiny account. Every single post comes from a circle that's hostile to me, Inland Empire.
Like every single post. And then it's from the area you're disclosing about.
Yeah, here. I mean, this is AI saying this, and it's fair to use AI.
Gray has documented reputation for running multiple sock accounts. You're not the first person to point this out. The complete absence of any original posts, laser-focused follows, and the immediate follow of you right after you've been active as a whistleblower for yourself and Ellie Carter, both with deep roots in San Bernardino. This is textbook sock puppet behavior for low-level monitoring, intimidation, or just poking at you.
Right, and this is a person who says he was, a victim as a child, which, by the way, I don't dispute that. I don't know if that's true, but I don't know that it's not true, and so...
Yeah, and you're not making claims of that.
I treat that as... I take him at his word. His word isn't worth much, but, there's something to that.
Well, and you've also said you don't attack survivors, so this puts you in a very difficult situation because you don't attack survivors. And he's attacking you. So what are you supposed to do? And so you are fighting back, but you're not being vicious. And I think more people need to see that. You're fighting back by standing up and being like, this is the truth. Just letting you know, this is the truth. Right. And they're still calling you with ad hominem attacks and all these other things. But you're sticking your ground.
Exactly. And this isn't just another person. This is a person who says he was a former assassin in a child program, but a former assassin who is married to Emma, the person who is lying, and also is in control, the gatekeeper and the person who controls the largest library of MK Ultra testimonies. She also controls testimonies of people from family court and other things, which is how
a lot of family court testimonies on there.
Because of MK Ultra, it was because of family court. Because she had, I think, about 4 times she'd interviewed Jack Pendergrass, who I mentioned, and then also Michael.
Yeah, and Megan Walsh about family court. I mean, there was a lot of family court discussions, and she was tying it into and letting people make the connections. But and Gate went big on her. That wasn't, so there's a lot of themes that she had. It wasn't all MK Ultra Survivor Library.
Right, exactly. And so she's married to this person. And, if you're married to someone, even if you take it kind of straight, there's a limit what you can say. So then here's just Grok's AI neutral assessment. It's not normal.
Yeah.
It's a sock account by a guy who has lots of...
It says, so I wouldn't skip over the sentence. This is not a normal curious follower. It's almost certainly a disposable burner sock meant to sit in your notifications and watch your activity and signal you and possibly others that we're still here and we see you. For AI to frame it like that, when AI will, lie about things and gaslight you out of thinking there's any sort of a conspiracy about something, is very strange because it's pulling details and telling what it considers to be the factual truth of what it sees. And these are not safe things it's saying.
Right. And then it's here. It's in 9. He is in...
Blend into the local 909 law enforcement government ecosystem you're already whistleblowing around.
Right. So the sheriff,
to gain confidence, maybe, of others.
For governor, who was there the whole time of Allie Carter's life, if you call his
Which
office,
we need to make sure that we remember that Emma has dogged on Allie Carter. She said not sure she believes her.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. And then also, they're talking about 909. They're not even within 1,000 miles of 909. So it recommends that I block and mute it. Obviously, I didn't do that. If it starts recurring, consider turning on. So it's giving me all.
So they suggest you report his account and this account for. Can you scroll up 1 second?
Yeah.
For harassment and targeted abuse is what this AI tool says about this X user who has followed you.
And I don't even know that I did that, but I definitely didn't block and mute it. I did the opposite. I just left it wide open and then look at the comment that comes back. Whoever's controlling.
So then this person responds. So you did all of that and posted the conversation, and then this person.
April 14th, and then this account says
on April 15th says, I can assure you I'm just a regular dude who barely uses Twitter. I support what Gray does. Twitter is the main way to follow what's going on. The yellow part is a callback to my OG YouTube and 909. You guessed right.
Let's see what this says.
So he doesn't use Twitter at all, but he knows exactly who to follow right away and retweet immediately.
Yeah. And then so the same day. So then I just take that, I put this in and say, I'm trying not to load it too much. I'm just asking it, kind of plain, what's your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So you asked the question, that's not persuasive given the comprehensive detailed analysis. I'm just a regular dude supporting Gray.
Yeah, sorry.
More like, tell me you're a sock puppet without telling me you're a sock puppet. Your thoughts and what this YouTube channel is he referring to? So Grok answers, your take is spot on. It's not persuasive at all. The reply is a classic low-effort deflection. I'm just a regular dude, and I support Gray. And a vague origin story for the username. It completely dodges the real red flags that you and my earlier analysis flagged. Brand new account, about 5 followers, 0 original posts, only reposting Gray, Emma, JR Sweet content.
Right. By the way,
JR Sweet is good content. It's just he blocked you because of Emma. So it's interesting that one's there too.
That's the only one that isn't in this family. Husband,
exactly.
wife.
Like, where's the narrative on this? Because you disclosed Disneyland. Is there something they're trying to block out of Disneyland being found out?
Well, yeah. I mean, so it's like, on the one hand, is he lying? Okay, on the other hand, is he telling the absolute truth, and it's a way to divide, get the one truth teller on our team and then hit the other ones, and then as a way to
some
kind of
clout
out the narrative. See,
that would be sucky if they're using his story for clout too, like they've destroyed your story. I mean, that would really be sucky.
But it puts a big question mark on this, at least from my perspective. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Grok says laser-focused following list of Inland Empire law enforcement and government accounts, plus you and your known harassers. None of that gets explained. I barely use Twitter while replying within hours to your exact thread, and curating the exact echo chamber is self-contradictory.
And I think the thing to do is to resolve contradictions. And by the way, did you see Allie's theme? She put one word out as like, basically, she didn't say it was her theme, but I took it as her theme. One word.
I don't know if it was me. I'll go back on the recording. You said, did you see? And your words muted until you said she put one word out. I don't know what you said.
So there's one word that Allie used as her theme, like starting a couple of days ago. Like, she's like, I'm going to be hammering this thing. It's not contradictory, but did you see it? I'll tell you. It's okay if you didn't.
I'm not sure. Connected.
She said consistency. And
well, yeah.
She was not referring to me, but it's basically the antonym of contradictory, consistent. So she's basically coming to the same thing I'm coming to, except for she put it in a positive way. Like, I'm saying resolve contradictions. She's saying we need to be I'm looking for consistency over time. But anyway,
right, exactly. Yeah, no, consistency is key.
Things that are self-contradictory are maybe the best evidence of something, because it contains the evidence of it within itself. So the lie here, according to AI, which is good at this kind of thing, is the lie is contained in the thing itself. You don't need to reference anything outside. I barely use Twitter, and I replied within hours,
Yeah, basically. I mean, and even if, so maybe this person is just some random internet person who decided to create a Twitter account in order to follow Gray, like he says. Fine, I can understand that. Why does he follow you?
Yeah, exactly. Recommendation.
If Gray hates you, if Gray has posted about hating you, why does he follow you?
Right, exactly. And then, on top of all of that, watch this if it's still here. The same thing. I mean, joined in June, attacked me days ago, used it to discredit me, did nothing else. And it's still there.
That is a real, and then, so what are the replies after that? After he replied to you, did he reply ever again to anybody else ever? If you go to his account and hit replies?
I don't think so. I mean, but, it's just, all of these people are suspect to me. I mean, you can't help if he's following me, but, check it out. He's made 7 posts.
Right.
So it's
doesn't look like it.
One by Emma, another one by Emma, one by Gray, which, does what he does. He reposts his own stuff. Another one by Gray, and then one by JR Sweet. And then he replied to me. I always feel like someone's watching me. I tagged everybody.
It's just really odd. I mean, if you consider common, so the algorithm isn't going to be like, hey, new follower who just followed Gray, who is a discloser, you might like these people. And it's going to suggest everyone that Gray has blocked? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, how did he come across your account? If Gray blocked him and he follows everything that Gray does, why your account? And why nobody else? Why not every person that Gray has blocked or had issue with? There's no consistency in the understanding, and then they didn't respond after that. So It's definitely looking like it could be some sort of a sham account. But
it's kind of obvious.
yeah, so it's just an interesting situation because how many of these types of situations are survivors dealing with that are stalkers when he's literally saying you're dangerous because you have 2 accounts?
Yeah, which is its own explanation. And plus, I actually listened to a lot of my interview with him, and we talk about it in some detail.
Well, and she tagged, if I remember correctly, and I think we've said this, and then I'm going to jump off here, but she says, you can find Brad at, and she tags your Real Sunshine account.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about it quite a bit. And at that time, most of my stuff was under that account. So, she's even...
Which you were using to protect your children. It wasn't, he says you were pretending to be a female. It was Sarah Connor was your female persona, right? Sarah Connor, from Terminator.
Yeah.
So, like, the female persona that he's claiming is dangerous to survivors is you having a second account called Real Sunshine. And then it was like, what was the other part? It was like something. But that part is the danger because you pretending to be a female is what he says. But it's literally being quoted on his podcast, on Emma's podcast, saying tag Brad at this Real Sarah Vernon, or right. Well, I'm not messaging it right, but on this other account. And you've said that was your account. You've said I'm using it as a protective account. You've said I'm protecting children. This is why I have 2 accounts. You've tagged your real account from that account. So at what point are you hiding that account? At what point are you being dangerous with that? It makes no sense. But the fact that this person who's well respected as an assassin, which gives him, a lot of people probably fear him because of that, has said a statement that says he's dangerous. Nobody has to go further. And then he says he's harassed my wife. The harassment is me sharing posts of what you've said that's wrong.
Yes, he's basically...
And so those 2 statements don't make sense.
No. So he's like...
There's no context to that.
He's like my ex-wife in that regard. So, I've been defamed, and the thing is, like, in the real world, like, if you were going to criticize me, then the criticism that I would come up for would be like for not taking initiative, or like laying back, or being submissive in a way where what you would hope for would be passion, action, take charge, that kind of thing. And so that would be like where, if you wanted to criticize me, that's where it would come from. Who wears the pants in this family kind of thing, right? Not abuser, aggressive, that kind of thing, because I haven't done that. So if I'm open to criticism, it's more like on the opposite side. And then I have reasons and explanations for that are all the way from more inclined toward being introverted. I don't especially like putting myself out there, but I will. That was something that my ex did, and I've given her credit for it, and she excelled at it, obviously. As an actor and just somebody kind of constituted that way. But the main reason I haven't is because it's dangerous. When I do it, it gets hot super fast, and I'm protecting children. And so every time I try to push into something, the feedback I get, the way I perceive it, is somebody's going to get killed, is basically, to bottom line it. And so what I do is, because I don't have a stomach for that, I don't want that, I don't live for that excitement, I don't want any of it, and I'm protecting children. Other people do, they have more of a...
Yeah, we're not talking... Yeah.
Into the mix and fight about it. So it's not really for me on the one hand, and also I feel like it's being myself if I want to go that way. If I have the better team, but they have all of the referees. What are you going to do? And I'm not really big. I'm actually quite sure that Gray could hurt me badly in real life, because I do believe that there's something to the things that he talks about, and he's also younger than I am. So I don't want to mess around.
So you have every reason to take him seriously, considering he's also posting that he's serious.
Yeah.
And then they dog on you for taking him seriously, and then they lie about you, and then they whatever you want to call it, misinform the public about your account, right, and gain attraction for blocking you or defaming you or disliking you.
Yeah, really.
And this is all from the survivor community.
Yeah, right. I know. And so it ends up being that the thing that I can do. So I say, well, my top priority and what I'm going to do is I'm going to protect my children. And it doesn't matter what happens to me. If I die, if I take all my stuff, I want to have a nice place.
Yeah.
Work that hard. I want to spend
Yeah.
time with my kids. I want to do these things. So it's not like I like that. It's like, I'll do that. Judgment. Some things is where I am.
Well, and data analyst too.
And the best that I can do is basically just absorb everyone's consciousness and just get destroyed. And somehow that's how I'm
right. That doesn't.
Nobody will ask
well,
me about it.
I'm hoping that this provides people to give you questions. I hope that people listen to this and they jump right over to your account trying to question you or find out that Gray's telling the truth, because they'll come up on a lot of interesting stuff.
Right. Well, and I know we're almost out of time, but I should say that's part of why, not the only reason, but a main reason why I appreciate you so much is not because you just believe me, but because you give me time and like listen and see what comes out. And then I'll also use another word to somebody who does not know internet. And I'm talking about stuff around her case, and I'm trying to do it carefully and respectfully. But I know that I'm talking about people that are connected to her, and she hasn't blocked me. She may block me, and ultimately, I don't know. But I really appreciate the fact that somebody that was abused in such horrific ways for her whole life and has lost so much, that's that smart and is still out there speaking, hasn't blocked me.
Oh, 1,000%, yeah.
I feel like Ali
and still likes your posts.
We have low
yeah.
standards. Just if you're not trying to kill us, we're okay. I mean, I kind of feel like, I'd love you to follow me or maybe interview me or ask me questions, but I mean, I'll just settle for don't block me.
Don't block me. We're good.
Yeah, so it's like
that's the problem. Yeah.
This is a new time because, my kids are a little bit older and there are some things that I need to talk about. And even with what I see going on with Ali Carter, the media itself includes podcasters, that kind of thing. They're all on the crosshairs. And a lot of people in my case are willing to go to LA Times to a bunch of other podcasters, but they're all part of the topic. Where are they at? LA Times, I don't have personal relationships with them. I know one reporter a little bit. But like Emma, I mean, we talked, and we have a history. Same with Mike Colton.
Yeah, interviewed you and your child.
Bad actors. They need to be exposed, and we need to find out what the truth is. And if they want to talk to me and get it straight, I'm all for it.
Yeah, but you're not going to live in a contradictory world and call it beautiful, and that's what some people are willing to do.
Talking about what's going on and who's lying, and it really helps me.
Well, maybe we'll start a new series called The Contradictions, and we'll just highlight contradictions all day for the podcast. And that,
I think that would be great, because we should be resolving it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the cognitive dissonance that exists in a lot of these realms is concerning because we cannot seem to get to the point where we make the adjustments. We think, oh, that might have been wrong, but this is right, and this is how I grow. No, it seems like the conspiracy world went from, I think for myself, and I think outside of the box, to I think this thing only, or that thing only, or that was never the way it was. It was very much, here's some facts, think for yourself, you're welcome to think that if you want to, whatever. And we can't do that now. And I think when there are contradictions and we have like that misfire of that doesn't make sense, and then we sit on it and we absorb it and we allow it and then we build on that, you're just building a mansion in sand, and that's not valuable.
And it's hard. I mean, I'm subject to the same thing. It's like I know
Yeah.
Sensitive to it, but I'm subject to the same. People don't.
Right.
I'm more coming in you know, like look at the people in that church we saw when they're in a state.
Yep. They put you in that state first.
It's akin to hypnosis, and they're in that state. I'm not looking at them and thinking I'm better than them. I'm thinking that's how powerful it is in
Right. Right.